Hi folks, this is Steve here, and welcome back to another Beginner's Guide to Common Topics for Dorico Pro 5. This one is about basic engraving and adding some other detail to a piece of music to make it copy of an original. I'll explain all of that in a second. There's going to be a number of things that this covers, so it's difficult to make a list, but just follow along with me and you can see what I mean. Okay, so what we've got here is my first clarinet player asked me to go ahead and to make a copy of the second page of the first clarinet part to Elegy for a Young American, bringing down some of these notes by an octave. So I told him I'd be happy to do that. So as I've talked about in other videos, I would take this PDF, I would then open it in Smart Score 64, clean it up, digitize it, and save it as an XML file for completion in Dorico. Okay, so let's go ahead and open the XML file. Whoops, there it is. Lost it for a second, guys, sorry. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and put it into vertical mode because that's the way I like to look. And resize the window a bit. Okay. First thing is let's take it out of full score. Let's take it to the part, because actually we don't care about the score view, we care about the part. And we can begin to now kind of clean this up or make it look the same. So of course, Dorico defaults to a first page template that includes both the project name and the flow name. Well, we don't need that because it's the second page. So the first thing, let's change this to be first clarinet. Let's go to setup, double click on the name, and just type in first B flat clarinet. Okay? And voila, it changes. Now, as I said, because Dorico defaults to a first page template, we don't need the first page template. We need the second page template. Easiest way to do that is to go into Layouts, Shift, Command L, and go down to Used First Page Template, Never. Well, never show flow headings either for this purpose. Apply, close. So there we go. Look, we've now just got it first clarinet. Now let's move this over, right? Because it's not the first page. So let's go back to Layouts, Shift, Command L. And that's going to be under Staves and Systems, I do believe. Yes, Indents, 0. Click, apply, close. There you go. Okay, so now we're ready to begin to clean up the work. So the first thing let's do, let's add the rehearsal marks in. So the way we add a rehearsal mark is we click on the note of the bar, Shift A brings in the first rehearsal mark. It defaults to letters, but let's go ahead and add them all and then change them to numbers. So I'm just going to go ahead, following the music, put them in. You can see kind of what I'm doing here. Number 10 is there. 11 is there. Whoops. Let's see, 12 is there. 13 is there. Okay, we've added the rehearsal marks and their number and their letters. To select all of the rehearsal marks, click on a rehearsal mark. On a Mac, Shift Command A. Shift Command A selects all of the rehearsal marks. Open the Properties tab down here, sequence type numbers, whoops, numbers, and let's make them a little smaller. So let's custom scale them, let's say down to 75. Okay, well there we go. Oh, except we need it to start with 7. So let's deselect them all, select number 1, go back to the Property tabs, index it at 7. All right, there we go, all indexed. Okay, now we can go and start adding in other parts. So we got a poco writ there. So by the way, poco writ would normally be a tempo marking, but I don't know how to make a tempo marking italicized. So I'm going to go ahead and use system text. Shift X opens the text box. We want to make it italic. We want to bring it down in size to, oh, I don't know, maybe 10. Poco writ. Escape. Okay. We can move this down here later when we are in the engraving tab. So right here we want to make tempo 1. Oops. Tempo is just what you the popover for tempo. Shift T for tempo. Type in tempo 1, return. Okay. We need a diminuendo here. So click on the notes, shift greater than sign. Well, yeah, greater than. Grab it, move it. Okay, there we go. We got an MP here, we got there. Up, we need slurs there. So select those notes that you want slurred. Type S. Up, look, needs to be a flat. Select the note, hit flat. Okay, da da da. That looks good. This needs to be an MF. So double click on it, change it to MF. And we need to add stringendo here. So click in the measure, shift T for the popover for tempo. Stringendo, poco, poco. Click outside the box. There we go. Okay, forte. That looks right. That looks right. We need a crescendo here. Shift D to open the dynamics box. Type in crescendo. Okay. We also, oh, I left out the crescendo poco a poco here. So let's click there. Shift D to open the dynamics box. Crescendo poco a poco. Whoops, looks like I need to put a period there. Oh, but look, it didn't do poco a poco. Well, select the crescendo, go to Properties, add poco a poco. There you go. Okay, so let's see where we're at. Da 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 da. Well, now look at this. This is interesting. Dorico defaulted to make these be this configuration rather than this configuration. Those are defaults that have to do with modern theory of engraving. But let's say you want this to look like this. Well, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to enter the right mode and then force the duration. Okay? So the way we would do that is we would go to the note, double click to enter note, enter, advance the caret. You'll see that it's already been selected, isn't it? Because it recognizes those 3 tied notes as a dotted half note but displays them that way. We'll force the duration, okay? Hover over it and click it. Now, if you tried to tie the two together, it might get confused. So the best way to do this is to force that duration and then hit T for tie. And now it looks the same. Okay? Da 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 da. The same thing's true here about how it defaults. So once again, we can click here, enter write mode, advance the caret, and you'll see that it recognizes those two tied notes as a quarter note. Let's go ahead and lock the duration, go over it, click it in place. Oh, I must have done that wrong. Okay, that's all right. I need to click it there, sorry. Make it a half note, force duration. Okay? Now remember so let's try what happens. Let's go ahead and select that and try to tie the two together. Ah, see what it did? It moved it back. So let's Command Z. Let's force the duration of that to remain. Now hit tie, and it works. So what's kind of one of the maybe little quirks of Dorico? When we need a slur here, select, hit S. If you select one note, the slur automatically goes only to the next note. Bop, 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 slur here, first note, S. And look here, same thing. See what it did? It changed this figure to this figure. I will say this is not, to me, the best way, because actually this falls in the middle of a beat. So let's go ahead and change this dotted quarter note to this figure. Okay, so it's basically the same kind of thing. Let's go ahead and enter write mode. We're going to put in an eighth note. We're going to lock the duration, position it correctly in the caret, and select. And you see what happened? It did change it. Now we need to make that an accent, which we can do by this, but we need to take this accent away. Okay? Go back here and go ahead and select T for tie. Okay? Follow me? Good. Same thing's true here. Double click, enter write mode, hit eighth note, force the duration. Okay? Take away that accent, put the accent on there, and then select T to tie them together. Okay? We've got slurs here. And then we got to move, see this starts at the G, so let's move this over. You can do that with a keyboard shortcut, but for the purposes here, I'll just use my mouse since I've got my mouse active in my hands and not using a ton of key commands. We need a staccato there. This needs to move over. Where are we at in the... There we are. We need to slur this. Dot, dot, dot. Yeah, we need to move this over. Dot, 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 dot. All right, we need to add... If you want to, by the way, beam these together like them, you just select the notes that you want beaming, and then you just... there's a number of ways to do it. I have a keyboard set up, a keyboard shortcut set up for this. It's being a pain in the butt. So that's interesting. Dorico, I just noticing this for the first time. Dorico doesn't want to beam like this. Well, let's do an experiment. Let's take away the tie. The way you take away the tie is select the two notes and use the snipping tool, U. Okay? So we need to take that accent away. Now let's see if we can beam them together. Okay. Now let's see what happens if we tie them together. Okay. So you got to undo the tie. Doing it this way, you have to undo the tie, beam them together, and then retie. Okay. My point is that you kind of have to learn some of these things as you go along. So for example, the same thing would be true here. If you want to beam these together, you have to take away the tie by hitting U. You have to take away that guy's accent notes. You've got to select these guys and then beam them together. And then go back and hit the tie. All right, well, I'm not going to bother with that any longer. So let's go ahead. We got to do double forte here. Shift D, double F. Number 9's Allegro. Shift T for tempo. Allegro. See where we at. Now we're down to number 10. I think we've got everything. Let's see here. Double forte here. They've put another double forte there. 1, 2, 3, 4 measures before 1, 2, 3, 4. So they want another double forte here. So D, Shift D, double forte. We need a railroad track there. So over here, 2 holds and pauses. Railroad track. I just clicked on it and hit the railroad track, as you could see. These are triple forte. Shift D, triple forte. Going into number 11, we have a diminuendo starting at the B flat. Shift D, D-I-M, D for, D is for dynamics. This then number 11, this G is a mezzo forte. Shift D, mezzo forte. 5, 2, 1, that's right. Double P. These look right or close enough. Sort of right. Let's go ahead and delete that one. Add another one by Shift hairpin. Well, this one isn't cooperating, is it? Yeah, sometimes it has, at least on the Mac, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to make these things line up. I'll show you how to do it in engraving. So go back to Shift, hit the diminuendo, the hairpin I mean, go to engraving, and you can, well now, some days it just don't work. We'll come back and fix it. I'll show you how you can fix it later. There you go. I just had to move it the right way. Okay. By the way, on a Mac, sometimes it does that. You just have to keep playing with it. P, and then we have a diminuendo here at the end. And that didn't work like it was supposed to. So let's go ahead and add a diminuendo. Go to engrave, because engrave gives us our little lines. Move it over. Go back to right. Okay. So now we fixed quite a good deal of it. And now let's go ahead and do what she asked me to do, which is to change these down an octave. So basically, right shift drag, hit Command on a Mac, right shift drag, and then to lower those by an octave, you can either drag them by your mouse or Option Command down arrow brings it down. Okay? Option Shift down arrow brings the entire selection down one octave. Now let's go ahead and add these Q notes. Okay. Shift, whoops. See what happened? Grabbed it wrong. Shift drag, sorry, not shift drag. Right click drag. Right click drag. Now we want to add an octave lower, but we want to make them both to stay. That's done with the interval popover. Shift I for interval. You want to add notes an octave lower. -8 is an octave. Return, and now we've added those notes an octave lower. Leave them selected though, and we want to make them Q notes. Open the Properties tab, Scale, Q, and now they're Q notes. This one here you can just change by clicking on it. Q. For some reason, the digitization software left it in place like this. Now we also want to extend this slur to there. All right. Well, I think we're in pretty good shape. We could add text here, lower octave optional, if we want, but you can use the X box for that. I mean Shift X for text. Okay, now let's work on making it physically look the same. Now, this is the engraving part of all of this. So the first thing we want to do is we want to open the layouts, Shift, Command, L. Note spacing, no, we don't want note spacing, sorry. Page setup. Let's go ahead and make the notes, I think, a little bit smaller. Apply, close. All right, now we got them all fitting on one page. So now let's think about how we're going to make these look the same. And this is where really the point I wanted to make about the engraving options is how to make it look more similar. Okay, we're going to enter engrave mode by clicking engrave. And the problem here might be getting it all to fit. There we go. I just had to open up the window a little bit. Let's see if I can do a little bit better here. Okay, here we go. So first line ends with the measures rest. We get here. Now you'll notice this stave ends with a 3/4. So we want to move this measure to the next system. So basically click somewhere in the measure, move to next system. See? Okay. This moves to the next system. Oh, and look, we missed that. So let's go ahead and make oh, that's just curious. Oh, I'm in engrave mode. Sorry, guys. Right mode. Delete. Move that over. Back to engrave mode. Okay, so let's move this guy to the next system. Okay, now it's adding system breaks, and you make these system breaks go away from the engrave mode by just going to Window or View and taking off what you need to take off, but they don't bother me, so we'll just leave them alone for now. Okay, so let's keep going. This guy goes to the next system. This guy goes to the next system. Let's see, where are we? This guy goes to the next system. This guy goes to the next system. That looks right. So now we can see that we're running out of room. Okay? We have a choice now. We can go ahead and move these up and kind of condense them. We'll see what happens when we do that. So it looks as if this guy moves up a system. Move to previous system. Okay? This moves to previous system. Whoops. This entire line, selecting the first note in the whole line, move to previous system. Oops. Control Z. Selecting it all. Whoops, sorry guys. Move to previous system. Doesn't really want me to do that, does it? So let's go ahead and click this, move that to the previous system. No, it doesn't want to do that either. Move to the previous system. Move to the previous system. Yeah, see this, so it doesn't really want me to do that either. So let's go ahead and back off a bit. I'm going to go back to this page. So at this point, we can't really move the systems around. What we need to do is we need to compress them a bit. How do we do that? Well, we can go back to the layout option, and we can go ahead and change our size, make it a little bit smaller, see what happens there. Ah, look. Because we've put the system breaks in place and we made them smaller, it all fits. So now it looks as if we've gotten exactly what we want. As is true in Dorico, there's many, many ways to make this work. If, for example, these notes were too small, you could actually decrease the space in between these. But because of some of these, you'll run into trouble. So I think we're actually close enough. So let's go ahead and print. Command P. And that should look pretty much the same. And it does. Well, all right, folks, I think I'm going to end this video. Sorry I had to walk around a little bit, but you know, one of the things that's very true about Dorico is if you don't do it every day, sometimes you have to kind of go back and rethink. So, but I thought it was important for you to see me work through the process. Okay, bye, folks. Hope this was helpful to somebody.